Monday in November. I'm Dale Matthews, and
I'm Mike Jones.
yes,
And this is 60 Minutes.
Yes, we're tick, tick, tick.
It usually is pretty close to that.
Yeah, it is.
And we're actually longer because there's no commercials.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we provide more information to you. Most of the time, our videos are about as subtle as a car crash. And then there are other times, our audience, you, are sophisticated. You can keep two things in your mind at the same time, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're playing back a video that happened earlier in the year, and it's really not about the content, although the content is rather compelling. It's more about, why don't we see these things anymore? This is a legislative update. It includes a number of people who will identify, and Mike, feel free to interrupt as often as you like, interrupt a lot if you like. And what I'm hoping is that, as interesting or as compelling as the content is, that you're not going to get sucked into that. It's more about, gee, this is sort of interesting. Why aren't we seeing this more often? Okay, so we're going to go straight into the video, and then Mike, you stop at any time you like, and we'll talk about what we're seeing and what we're now not seeing anymore. Legislative update. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Excited beyond words to talk with you, Senator.
Oh, thank you, Keith. You're always so entertaining in the morning.
Now we're gathered here and go around the table and tell you who's here.
Roy Lindsay.
Grant Cancio, Chamber.
Lyndon Radel.
Steve Ware.
Jody Wainwright.
David Reeves.
And I'm the only commissioner here, so we're all ready to go.
Well, Carl Wilson is here, and Wayne Stark is here, and we're all excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time to do this, because it's, as you know, it's an important time, and it's good to have the communication.
Sure. So, Carl, do you want to key it up? You always did a key up thing. You've been doing it for years.
Thanks. Yeah, I want to, hey, Steve, happy birthday yesterday, right?
Today.
Oh, today? Yeah, makes it better. Good job.
That's why it's National Day of Prayer.
Yeah, I understand. You don't get that number 70 very often, you know?
Yeah.
President, buddy. Well, hey, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you. Yesterday was day 3 of the session, and most people feel like it's already day 5, 6, or 7. It's been fairly intense. From a political standpoint, the Democrats teed up 3 very difficult bills for Republicans to swallow right up front to kind of show us who's boss. Yesterday, my Rules Committee, the Rules Committee passed out 5-4 universal voter registration, which means every time you go to the DMV, you're going to get an opportunity to register and vote. You can opt out, but that opt-out doesn't happen until your information has been sent from DMV to the Secretary of State to the county clerk. One of the sad things about that bill, and I made that point very plain before we went to the vote, is this is a disastrous bill for counties that are rotating around the anchor like we are and have no money. It's going to cost Josephine County thousands of dollars to chase down people who in all likelihood do not have any intention of voting and don't want to. It was amazing to make that case in front of the committee, that as bad as things are in counties like Josephine and Lane and of course Curry, that this legislative body would be willing to pass an unfunded mandate that is going to cost that much money to these counties. And there was a vague promise of sending money from Salem to help cover that issue.
I got a question.
Yes.
What, and I don't know if they define this later on during this process, but they're talking about motor voter, obviously. And so when they talk about it being an unfunded mandate, do they mean that the county has to pick up the cost of administrating all of the new information that they're going to be getting from the DMV and incorporating that into their voter rolls, that's all on us.
Yes,
right?
sir. That's exactly.
Is there another cost that they're talking about in terms of the unfunded mandate?
No, that's it. And as he had mentioned, it's going to cost thousands of dollars. Well, it's not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, it's thousands of dollars. And that's
we
also
got all kinds of money like that. We have $130,000 to spend on water testing. Why can't we do this?
When we're going it alone, and we're not even involving the U.S. government, the state government, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, or Grants Pass, or even Jackson County. You're right about that. Now, there is a rule in the state constitution that say unfunded mandates are illegal. So that shouldn't be
a little bit of a conflict.
Just a little bit of a conflict, but again, there's two things happening here. One is it's interesting content. I know that it is. Who's at the table? Well, often sitting at the table is a complete quorum. I mean, all three, or at least two, county commissioners.
Right.
And were they just talking about something that's county business?
Yes, right, exactly.
Obviously.
And there's no quorum there.
And not this time. Just a little bit more. Who else is at the table? Roy Lindsay from the Grants Pass City Council. Also, people from the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce.
Now, I assume there's going to be another topic discussed because
yes.
What business is it of Roy Lindsay and Mr. Reeves there or whatever? What concerns them about this?
Good question. Everybody should be asking that. There's lots of people who would like to know what's happening in Salem. These are our representatives. One's a state senator, Herman Bertschiger. Another is our representative, KJO's Carl Wilson. And then we've got Dwayne Stark, who represents part of one county and part of another part of Josephine County. And there are a lot of people in this area who would like to know what's going on in Salem. You may recall, Mike, remember when we talked with Herman Bertschiger and when he said they were going to go back into session? We talked to him in August.
Yeah, and that would be like around February of this next year or something.
This took place in February, this meeting. This was the last one they let us into. They used to let us into all of these meetings because there's some interesting, compelling content.
Right. What do they call this? This is not the normal backroom meeting. What do they call this when they
legislative update?
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Legislative update. So there are a lot of, not everybody is interested, okay, but our audience is. There's a lot of, even in this information that's a bit old, that's rather interesting information. And so wouldn't you like to hear it? Well, of course you would. And so I'm sitting there with the camera. Did you notice the lady looked back when they said, who's in the room? And she kind of looked back and, well, okay, you're not going to mention this guy. Well, they don't. Okay. Now the question is, and we're going to go back into the content and then come back with us once Mike stops the video again. Why are we allowed to be there anymore? Go ahead, Mike.
You know exactly how that goes on you. So that was the first example of what's going on with one-party rule up there. Offered 4 amendments yesterday to that bill. One of them was just absolutely, as I pointed out in the committee, as simple as a screwdriver. It would allow you to opt out right from the get-go at DMV and not have your personal information transmitted on down the line if you were not interested in voting. But there was one Democrat sitting next to me who confessed before going to the vote that he was almost swayed. It made absolute sense, but he had to do what his caucus wanted him to do, and that is push for universal voter registration. So that was a highlight of my yesterday. It doesn't depress me at all. I think we're hanging together and doing some good things, and we're going to have some wins somewhere along the line.
Should have noted that the legal counsel Wally Hicks has now come to the table as well.
Hey, Wally.
Hey, Carl. So are we question time yet, or if I ask him one here? Sure. Okay, Carl. Hey, so how are you liking it so far, huh?
You know, I told my wife last night that I was having the time of my life.
Yeah.
I'm really serious about this. It is so different this time than it was last time. I just feel so much better in the surroundings. Know what I'm doing a lot more this time than last time, and you know, working to develop a farm team for the future.
Cool. Well, if we see you with a smile, we'll assume it's a green, not a wince.
That is true. I can't right now.
And he's got a purple couch in his office.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That's what you sleep on.
All right.
All right.
Looking at
Herman? Oh, before, sorry.
Good morning, Wally.
Hey, yeah, can I just, okay, 2 quick points if I may, and then I'll shut my track. First, on the universal voter registration, you know, if the local jurisdictions were to decide to challenge this, it'd be helpful, I think, to us if you would put into the legislative record that you believe this violates the constitutional prohibition against unfunded mandates.
There it is.
It's not an angle that gets used very often, but the state constitution does literally prohibit unfunded mandates. And so, you know, I do believe legislative council, based on the past attempt to get this bill through, would agree with you on that point. And so if somebody along the way could get an opinion from legislative council along those lines, you know, I think it's going to pass anyway, but if you want to, you know, hook up your legal counsels with a little bit of ammunition, that would be helpful.
We could have told them that.
First got down to Ways and Means, so we have a little extra time to make that case. I guess either for full funding at this point, or you know, to get a little bit.
Right, and then the other one on Cypre is, and have you talked about Cypre yet? Okay, so
We got a committee yesterday, didn't it?
extremely radioactive bill. I mean, so you know, it's probably unconstitutional as well because it interferes with existing lawsuits and contracts. But if you really want to, you know, come up with a way to stump the chump in terms of the advocates here. So, you know, what this bill does is it expands the class and class actions to include people who didn't actually file as part of the suit. So, you know how you get these things in the mail that say, you know, that,
$24.
yeah, so now it's like, exactly, well, now you don't actually have to send it back to the account again. But say that, okay, well, we'll think about doing this, but the attorney's fees for the trial lawyers cannot be based upon the total amount of the new settlement, of the new award. You follow what I'm saying there?
Yeah, and you know, we're going to be offering a minority report when it comes to the floor.
That's the one to offer. Is my humble suggestion. And see what they do about that, because you got the trial lawyers now against the other side of that coin. So we didn't really do that last time. I proposed it. We almost did it. The leadership kind of down-thumbed it, but I still think that's the way that you address that, to not have all the harpoons thrown in you afterward.
Yeah, sounds good. So retroactively, you know, makes it run afoul.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I wonder whatever happened with that. Did that point ever get brought up? Was that ever argued at the state level about the unfunded mandate?
We don't know. And why do you think that we don't know?
Because we're not allowed in these meetings anymore?
That's correct, sir.
Yes. And one thing that is notable in what's happening here, don't you wish that Simon Hare would speak in these meetings like Wally Hicks does when he knows he's on a speakerphone?
Yes, and he could.
Because once Wally was enunciating quite well and loudly.
That's correct. Look, the other thing is, when you're looking at who's in this room, this is, they've now said, well, these are private briefings. Private briefings. Now, afterwards, talking with Keith Heck, he just had one comment for me. He wanted to know what a minority report is. Okay.
Yeah, that's a movie with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Just so you know.
See, you had asked earlier, you know, what's the usefulness of these people being there, especially somebody like Keith? It's all inside baseball. Of course, that's what it is. He doesn't know what a minority report was, or at least he couldn't think of what it meant at the time. But they all want to listen. Why is it? Because this is insider information. What's going on in Salem? And the reason that Roy Lindsay wants to be there, and you can see is chomping at the bit, the reason that our former representative and was going to be head of the Republican Party in the entire state, Wally Hicks, he really wants to be there, and the others are gathering around because this is almost as good as going to a Rotary Club meeting.
Right. We even have Rick from Pawn Stars.
Yes, right. But the point is, they want exclusive access to this information, which will give them an idea of what's coming up in the future in state and local politics, and they don't want
Right.
you there. Not just me.
Right. And they want
don't
to be the
our
life.
presence. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. And they want to be the life of the party. You know, they go to some cocktail party and they can be the guy with the news, you know.
Well, yes, they could be the guy with the news, or they could, let's say, start up a hemp farm and already know what the state legislature is going to vote on it.
Yes, that's right. Of course. Yes.
You cannot
that makes
be allowed.
total sense.
Now we're going to play more of this, and I know that everybody's getting sucked into the content, and me too. But keep thinking now while you're watching this. Why are we not? Who was behind the decision not to allow you? Because when I'm sitting there with the camera, you're right next to me, all of you. Who was behind the decision not to allow you to be there? Go ahead, Mike.
I don't know, did that pass out committee yesterday in the Senate? I think it did.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I'm not sure where it is.
Yeah, but
All we know is what we're gonna do when it comes to our chamber, and that is offer the people another alternative.
So, looking at the revenue and finances are gonna be really tough, I think, for Republicans, because I'm pretty confident that clean fuel bills is going to pass. Carbon credits are gonna pass in some sort, which is going to increase the price of gasoline no matter how you slice it. Then they're going to put a transportation package in front of us, which is very important to our districts. And they're going to make us vote on that transportation package with a gas tax included. And so now you're looking at gas prices going up from carbon credits, gas prices going up from clean fuels, gas prices going up from a gas tax on the transportation package, gas prices going up because the feds are going to up their road tax. And if crude oil goes back up to $90 or $100 by the end of the summer, you can see some of the highest gas prices that we've ever seen. And so, how do you make a decision on that transportation package? I think it's a very good result for all of us here.
Herman, those transportation taxes, where does the revenue go?
That's a good question. They're supposed to, any gas tax in the state of Oregon is supposed to go to the roads. But they start bringing in bike paths, walking trails, nature trails, all of this other stuff that money goes to. And so it gets quite frustrating. Sometimes it doesn't all go to fixing the roads. Yeah.
He just shut the door to this private meeting.
That's another one of my big committees, education. How do we fund kindergarten, and do we want to make it mandate for all the school districts across the state? Some of the rural school districts really have an issue putting a 5-year-old on a school bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, not seeing them until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be a real interesting discussion. And of course, the big question is, how much money are we going to fund education? So those would be some interesting topics.
Herman, just a point of information as to what the impact of all-day kindergarten is having here in Grants Pass. Monday, the group that determines what the duck derby is going to support this next go-around, they chose the Boys and Girls Club so that they could expand some of the facilities to accommodate the kindergartners that they anticipate coming in, as well as improving the teen activities. So the Boys and Girls Club is going to be impacted significantly by this all-day kindergarten stuff.
Yeah, it is. And you know, there's the bigger picture that I'm starting to see. There's a bill here laying on my desk someplace, but you know, government says that the mandatory date for a kid that has to go to school is 7 years old, and they would like to bring that down to 3.
Did he say 3?
He did say 3. So,
wow.
You think
why would they want that?
Do you think there are any parents in this area or grandparents that might want to get that information? Do you think that they might have a response for their elected legislators that are in Salem and maybe want to send them a letter on that subject? Or maybe even the governor?
Yeah, and why? I mean, you have to ask yourself why. Listen, I understand that. I mean, everybody gets that in certain parts of the state there's extreme poverty where, you know, it's difficult for some parents to get by. Okay, but for the most part, most people are taking proper responsibility for their kids, and they're feeding them and clothing them, all this kind of stuff. Why does the government want to get a hold of your kid at 3 years old, for crying out loud?
Because they're convinced that people are not taking care of their kids.
This is the problem of, government creep.
Yes.
You know?
Well, we got a bunch of them around that table. And that's my point again, is when was the last time, looking at the bigger picture here, at the meta message of this meeting, when was the last time, not theoretically now, where you and the audience actually heard a report from your state senator? Or you were given a briefing?
Yeah, I mean, had we not gone to...
Go ahead.
Right. Had we not gone to that thing and had the opportunity to talk to Herman there for a few minutes, we wouldn't have, I mean, this would have been it, last February.
That's correct. But there are people gathered around that table. They meet twice a month. Every 2 weeks when these fellows are in session, they meet. And now what is a little private meeting, it's now categorized by the county commissioners as a meeting of the Chamber of Commerce. It just happens to be in the commissioner's little back room. And sometimes there's a quorum of commissioners. And with Wally Hicks there, let me say that again. Sometimes Wally Hicks is there with a quorum of commissioners, and they're all participating in what's been deemed to be a meeting of the Chamber of Commerce, and they're talking about county business and city business. Wally Hicks is sitting right there with him. Mike, from our reading of the law, is that legal? No.
Yeah, well, perhaps he should interject and be making note of the fact that that is a public meeting.
Now, in this case, this is a little harder because, okay, two things in our mind at the same time. Oh, I'm sorry, the other way around. Two things in no, wait. Never mind. It's interesting content, and everybody there wants to be there, and they find it valuable, and they want to know this information. So, what is it that Wally Hicks is doing? And this time, there's only one commissioner. But I know this for a fact that there have been two commissioners there with Wally Hicks. Okay, so where in the law does it say that's okay? It doesn't. And even without Wally, and even with just one commissioner, even if it's just Keith Hicks sitting there, why would they want to leave you out? You want to know these things, right? So do we. I'm not sitting there just taking notes for myself. We've got people in this town who do that. They find out stuff and they don't even tell us so we can tell you. Somehow grabbing that information is just enough for them. That's not what we do. Everybody knows as soon as we got it, you have it. We give it to you. They don't want that. This is now a private meeting with the door closed. Simon here never closes that door. It could be even noisy out there. They don't close the door, and it wasn't noisy. So why are they closing the door to a public meeting? It's noticed. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but here's more of the content. Don't get sucked into just the content now. What's going on here? Go ahead, Mike.
There's some interesting stuff out there dealing with education. Dwayne, you got something?
Well, I
have nothing exciting. My committees have been quite peaceful so far. They spent their time trying to educate all the new people. So,
Including you?
including me. For me, I feel a little like I jumped into a river and now I'm trying to swim upstream and around it. But so far I'm staying afloat, and as soon as I have something from my committee, worth getting up in arms about, I'll make sure I let you know.
Just make sure you keep your head above the water.
I'm trying to.
We did have our first Measure 91 committee hearing last night, started at 5 p.m. and went till 7. It was primarily informational. Got a good comparison of the medical program to the recreational program. We talked about certain aspects of the bill. We had people from Department of Justice and Legislative Council explaining the history of marijuana, where we've been, and where this bill possibly takes us. I think the consensus of most of the committee last night was to honor the overall intent of the bill, but realize that there are so many connections that need to be made to make this work, that it is going to take every moment that we have. I think the committee realizes that there will be tweaks made to this bill forever. My advice to them is swing for the fences now and get all we can do and get it done right. Because in the time that we have allotted, but recognizing the fact that there will continue, every time marijuana is involved, there are all kinds of tweaks that need to be made as time goes on. The chief petitioner of Measure 91 last night, which was kind of interesting as well. Ultimately, their goal, their hope is to get marijuana treated like beer and wine. Heard from OLCC last night, the guy who is in charge of putting this program together. I think he's got some good ideas. Really, it's an opportunity of a lifetime for everybody, and I think everybody is really excited about getting cracking on this thing and making it work. I was the only one that brought up the position of landowners and the landlords who are wondering about the forfeiture aspects of this bill for people who break the laws while renting or leasing their properties. That is just an example of the kinds of things that will have to be put together to make sense of this.
Okay, even I'm getting sucked into the content. He had mentioned the thing about the forfeiture laws and what would happen if the landlords get involved. Imagine right now if you were on the OLCC and Oregon Liquor Control Commission, and part of your job was to oversee the commerce having to do with marijuana. Well, with a slightly different turn of the federal government, OLCC people, employees, could be blamed, could be liable for helping promote illegal commerce.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. This thing's it's gonna go, there's gonna be a lot of what's the right way of putting it? Evolution when it comes to this, the way this thing ultimately pans out. It's interesting to hear Carl Wilson, who is a guy who's been really anti-marijuana, talk about what a great opportunity this is.
I think everybody that follows local politics knows that's the influence of Michelle Binker. Michelle Binker used to be working with Wally Hicks. She did work for the Ivy News. She was involved in a big controversy with who's going to be allowed into executive session. She said, I'm a reporter, I want to be allowed into executive session. I couldn't find any evidence that she was a reporter, so whatever. She brought a case against Sandy Casanelli for getting involved in that. Sandy was exonerated from all that by the
Ethics Commission.
The Ethics Commission, right?
Nice.
And now some people believe strongly that she's got the ear of Carl Wilson on this subject. Getting back to the idea of who doesn't want us there, when I talked with the head of the Chamber of Commerce, supposedly our friend in this fight against the grants pass sales tax, she said, well, the people who don't want you there are the commissioners. When I talked with the commissioners, they said the people that don't want you here, all of you, not just me personally, but the camera and you, that's the Chamber of Commerce that doesn't want you here. When I talked with Wally Hicks, he said it's both the Chamber of Commerce and the commissioners that don't want you here.
Okay.
Why?
How does any of that not make this a public meeting?
Good question. Okay, now because there's just one commissioner, they don't have to make this a public meeting. They don't have to. Sometimes there are two. Sometimes there are two commissioners and Wally Hicks. That's definitely illegal. There's no two ways about it. Wally can say, hey, no. That's illegal. Okay. The other thing was that they used to make it open no matter how many commissioners showed up, because what does it really matter? If you're going to advertise it as open and one commissioner can't make it, it's still open. Except the reason that this is topical now, because you spread it on your skin, the reason it's topical is that this last Thursday, right after the big meeting of the week where they do all the business, that's the administration meeting, was listed a meeting about, I got to look at it because Justice Reinvestment Program. It was listed, I have the sheet of paper, and it was posted on the website as being an open meeting. That was a legislative update meeting, even, yes, before February, right? Mm-hmm. And so there we were sitting in the meeting, and then Simon Harris says, oh, I didn't want that to be open to the public. So they decided a few minutes before it started that it would not be open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now wait a minute. First of all, you said that it was going to be, and now suddenly you're saying it's not. It was not erased from the public postings. Oh, that's so boring, public post. It's not as boring as you may think that it is. They're not supposed to just suddenly turn around and say no. Remember the thing at the Rotary Club? We were invited. They even said at the weekly business session before it, don't forget to come to this. It's going to be an update about the county, about looking at our future. And you're all invited. Come on down. And they posted it. And we showed up. And then they decided at the last moment, we don't want you here. This is now a closed meeting with a quorum of county commissioners talking about county business.
Nice.
So that's what's happening here. We'll talk a little bit more about who made that decision. Watch a little bit more, please.
So anyway, first meeting, last night, this committee meets 3 nights a week, supposedly, from 5 to 7 p.m. That's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. However, we're not going to be meeting on Fridays for a while here. So that's kind of the update from that committee.
Carl, on the, as you know, the marijuana situation in home rule counties, we cannot determine the citing and that kind of thing if the state has licensed them. Matter of fact, we had the moratorium for a 12-month period of time and have had 2 medical marijuana dispensaries in the Cave Junction area cited already in our functioning, and there's no consequences for that. Is there any effort being made to, or are we just being, suck it up and suck up?
Are we?
That's probably the reason. That's probably the reason. That quote right there is probably the reason they shut this off now to all of us. What did you just say?
Well, I mean, he was talking about the whether or not it was legal on the medical marijuana dispensary that was happening in Cave Junction.
And so do we have to just suck it up or suck up?
Okay.
So we put out a video called, do we have to just suck it up or suck up?
Yeah, well, that's
what he said.
Yeah, that's a Keith Heckism there,
It is.
I don't know what to do with that.
It is. Now, I just point out to you again, I've done this many times, they never talk about promoting anything about this legal business. It's never about promoting. It's basically, how can we restrict it? How can we keep it in a box? How can we stop it? It's happening without our permission. They never have a discussion about how to encourage anybody to make money in our county and bring prosperity. Okay, because they don't like this stuff. I get that. But they never talk about it. about why it could potentially be a windfall to our, or work hard, maybe not a windfall, that it could be profitable to our citizens who would eventually end up bringing up some of the other businesses in the area just because they're buying a new house or buying a speedboat or buying an RV. No, never any talk about that. That's why people are saying, well, why aren't you encouraging it? Well, we encourage it all the time. No, you don't. This is another example.
Maybe they're just embarrassed.
Yeah, that's what they are. Look, the point is that that they don't want you listening to this inside baseball. They don't want you to have access to the same information that we do. I talked to Colleen Martin, the head of the Chamber of Commerce. And I said, of course, people want access to this information like everybody else. Of course they do, just like you do. It's worthwhile, isn't it? Oh, yeah. I said, well, it'll be worthwhile to everybody to be able to hear this. Well, I'm sorry, we just can't help you. It's a private meeting. Even if there's no commissioner there, well, it's happening inside the courthouse. But why would anybody want to shut off access to you? For the same reason they want to have a private Rotary Club meeting, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
They don't have to open it up to you. They don't have to, but why wouldn't they? This is my question to her, to Colleen Martin of the Chamber. Why wouldn't you want other people to see it? What is your reasoning?
Well, I guess the Chamber of Commerce is kind of a quasi-government organization, and they're in tight with people in government typically, so maybe they enjoy that kind of exclusivity.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. That's why I joined Lions. Just too bad the Lions I joined was a rinky-dink organization. Not all Lions, but that was awful. I'll tell you that story another time. But they're not exclusive. They're inclusive. Exclusive automatically means, just by the definition, you have to leave people out. It's this exclusive organization. Stay out.
Right.
Well, these are our elected representatives. Are they talking about in such secrets that they don't want to include you? Who is the boss around here? Mark Goins thinks he knows. Well, it's the elected officials. No, they're not. We're the boss. And we'd like to know. This is interesting information. Why are we no longer allowed to attend? They don't want you to know.
Yeah, and just one thing that's a little bit different on a slightly different topic, just because you notice as you're watching this, the lights are on, or the lights are more noticeable than they normally are, and it's not quite light or not quite dark outside. Is this very early in the morning?
It was very early, yes.
Yes.
The first one that they had that I attended was so early that the building was still locked, and they opened it up saying the public is invited. So I showed up, but I couldn't get in. But they all got in.
That's because they have a special back door.
Or a special knock. They're certainly not going to tell us what the knock is.
Yes. No, and that's the funny thing is that it makes it a club. Yep. This is an exclusive club, and they want to control the membership. And it's just another part. It's like being one of the the in kids at high school.
You know what's going to come to a screaming halt if you get the right two commissioners in this next time? This kind of stuff. Okay, screaming halt. And
everybody gets to be in the club.
Yes, and that's why the Political Action Committee for the Chamber of Commerce is going to get as much money together as they can to oppose anybody that's going to rock this boat, because they want their exclusivity. Mm-hmm. This is why we did the show that we did last night. Okay, this is why we're asking for your input on things, because you can vote. You can still do that all the way through about midday on Wednesday. Okay, if you go to yesterday's show and you click on it, we can't get your information. We don't receive your information about who you are. We just know how many people clicked. And so we'll send off emails, because we're kind of getting used to something that you're not used to. It's a little bit like access to information. If you've not had it, or you've not had it in a long time, it's kind of hard to miss it, right? But what we're trying to do is get you used to the fact that you do get the information, because we're doing it all the time. Anything we get, we're going to tell you. unless we promise people that we're going to keep them anonymous. Okay. So we can't even find out who you are. Okay. That's number one. Number two is we'll send out an email saying, you know, I have listened to this show, and not this one because you can see there's no buttons on it, but on Sundays and Wednesdays, I've listened to this and I'm not very happy with what I'm hearing. And you just click on that. It's on the screen. You don't have to do any special registration or like, or I'm not a Facebook. Don't worry about being a Facebook member. You don't have to be. Just watching this. And then you can click on it. Okay, Doug? That's what you can do, Doug. Okay, so he loves this show. We love you too, Doug. Okay, so we want you to have access to the information. We think you're entitled to have access to the information. We think you're the boss. We know that you're the boss. This was the thing that was missing in that sermon. Well, you should always respect authority. We're the authority, not us, you. You're the authority. And yes, you should be respected. And that way, the Bible's telling the truth. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you're misinterpreting it. Because the characters that you trotted up there, they're not the authority. We're the authority. And so we're going to share all the information. And so they're going to have to fight this tooth and nail because that would be the end of their hegemony. Whew. And the point is that you would get access to, if you want it, access to the same information. I think it's interesting stuff. And this happened a while back. Go ahead, Mike, play a little bit more.
You know, I kind of think that, yeah, the latter is probably true. At least that's the way it stands now. But really, the home rule discussion, we're so new and so much at the outset of this, that hasn't been discussed yet. That's a legal question that we'll want to bring up and flesh out in front of the whole committee.
Good. Carl, yeah, just to pick up on that. So when you do get to the home rule discussion, it is well worth becoming versed in how cities and counties are different. It's very nuanced, but in regards to marijuana, it's very important. And so it's definitely worth asking your lawyer, how are cities and counties different? And ask AOC and Lee Morgan.
What's he talking about, Dale?
They're talking about how cities and counties are looked at differently when it comes to the home rule charters. City charter is considered in Salem different than a county charter. And so what can you do about marijuana and what can't you do about marijuana? Note here that I look back over our wonderful talks with Wally Hicks. He was happy, he was friendly, he was telling us too much. I think he got his head handed to him.
Huh.
He doesn't do that anymore. He was acting like he was an elected legal counsel. There's a big problem in this courthouse with doing that kind of thing because he was revealing stuff about fee structures, which we talked about last night. He was revealing things about that I think they'd prefer that we don't know, is they did some backroom deals, some double dealing here with us. They went to court against themselves and won. Gee, what a coincidence. And even Wally was going, wow, you know, I really wonder about that. Wally, you can't wonder about that in front of people who are watching this show because most of them are people who feel the same way that we do, but some of them are absolutely on the other side. And this is how they keep track of what we do. We know that. We know that you're watching this. Of course we do. Hey, you're welcome to all the information like every other citizen is welcome. You're not welcome to hold it just for yourself.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike.
Please, the same question, and that'll be very insightful.
Okay, sounds great, Wally. Thank you.
Another question that I got Carl here in the room, and has the question been asked, if we have a different president and they start enforcing federal law, then where are we at?
Then you're going to get into a 10th Amendment issue here. And right now, we began to discuss that last night. And it does involve itself around the 10th Amendment. And apparently, a number of states who are involved in the medical program have already been through that argument and have been deemed safe as a result of that. But Wally,
yeah, that's very interesting.
Don't you all know don't you all know that as soon as he said that, Mike's there with this book, flipping it open. Okay,
Yes.
he automatically knows. You know this about him. It's like when we covered UCC. You knew we were going to do that. You didn't need to be told by us we were going to be there for election night. You already knew. So Mike has looked up 10th Amendment. Remind him what 10th Amendment is, please, Mike.
Well, the 10th Amendment, let's see here.
You can count on Mike to do that.
The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. And so essentially, this is going to be a fight over whether the federal government making marijuana illegal has power in the state, because that you know, it's going to say, you know, does the federal law fit with the 10th Amendment?
Right.
And don't we have the right to make our own rule about marijuana if we want to?
Right, especially in home rule counties. Now, you all know this. You could put it together. We try to be there just a little ahead of you. Okay, this is the never-ending argument about states' rights versus federalism. It's never going to be solved. Okay, not ever. And it also fits in with, you already know this, with the Article 1, Section 8, which says that unless these powers are given to the federal government, they can't do it. Well, if you're going to be a strict constitutionalist, and we know people like that, then the federal government can't be involved in schools or hospitals. Okay, yeah, but then maybe you know, I'm not a strict constitutionalist. You know, I'm not quite sure. I mean,
I don't listen. You know what? How is it that some unnamed bureaucrat in a far distant capital is better to decide what happens with schools than us locally? I would trust the parents to. I believe that parents care whether their kids get an education or not. I'm sure there's a lot of people that think that most people are just stupid and can't be trusted with that charge. I think you know, people want their kids to be educated, and I believe that you'd be a lot better off if that was a locally administrated thing. However,
but wait a minute, Mike. Before the however, there are parents that are letting their kids just laze around between the ages of 3 and 6. What's up with that? Letting them be kids.
Yes, how dare they?
They don't have a job. They haven't gotten their social security number. They're not attending the indoctrination.
The government's not going to teach them anything. The government is just going to further make people dependent on government, so that they you know, don't have the independence that this country was founded based on.
Now they've got these FEMA camps with slides and with you know, slides and
listen, this is about killing independence and fostering indoctrination.
Well, it is a bit. I mean, school was a bit indoctrinating, wasn't it?
Yes, of course it is.
Yeah.
But the thing is that they more and more. School is about indoctrinating your kids into, and there's nothing wrong with bringing up the kids as you see fit.
That's right. But just look at the videotape. Look at the videotape from ISIS. How many times have you seen the ISIS terrorists swinging on monkey bars? Okay. They do it all the time. Yes. Isn't that what they do at schools? Aha!
Or at least that one video that we see over and over of people swinging on monkey bars way back in the day. I mean, that was probably 20 years ago. Right? Yes, it's the same. It's exactly the same. Kids on monkey bars and Al Qaeda. Yes.
They're coming over the border to sow seeds of hate and discontent, Mike.
Well, listen, you know what? I wish they would. You know,
what?
It's funny.
No.
I wish they would get this you know, states' rights issue dealt with.
Okay.
Because, and it's funny. Dale goes, well, if you're a strict constitutionalist, what else is there? You're either a constitutionalist or you're not. which means you don't care about anything. You give lip service to this document all the time. You even swear to it when you take office. But after that, you never crack this book ever.
We're not going to have time
that's a problem.
Any more video, Mike, but I agree with you. I'm talking about Article 1, Section 8, when it's specifically talking about the federal government pumping money into hospitals and cancer research. Think about the children and that kind of stuff. And it does say in there, you're not supposed to do that. I know that's what it says.
Yes, but you're making a presumption that if the government didn't do it, no one else ever would. And thank God we have the government doing this stuff. I say BS to that. I say, you know what? Listen.
Okay.
What
about the internet? What about the?
I'm sorry.
What about the wow, look at this lag. That's unbelievable. Why am I whistling a tune here?
Yes.
What about the interstate?
The interstate. Oh, you say this is the age-old gripe.
It is.
Of who would build the roads. Somebody would build the roads because there would probably be a profit in it somewhere to have a road between point A and point B. And listen, there was toll roads. Yeah. Listen, a lot of the original, interstate thoroughfares were set up as toll roads, and somebody maintained it, and they charged you a fee to go on it. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we pay more.
Well,
now it's just an
even have toll house cookies.
Right. Yes. They handed those out when you pay. Yeah, you pay your toll, and they give you a cookie. No, I just think if anybody has time, go to YouTube, go search Prager University and watch a video that was about John D. Rockefeller, and your mind will be blown about what that guy accomplished in his lifetime. Everybody thinks of him as a robber baron, but when they go into great detail as to that guy took tremendous amounts of wealth and gave it away, and fostered growth and all kinds of things that were beneficial to man. So I don't listen. If anything, government hinders that process because they take in a bunch of money and they hand it out to cancer research after they take a nominal fee out of the middle. So
that's exactly right. Now don't be. This university, it is not a university that was set up for unwed mothers.
No, it isn't. No.
Prager University. No.
Yes, it's Prager, not Prager.
Now, you can see that the government is interfering with our broadcast here.
Exactly. See,
and it's because we're criticizing them. And look, it's a black screen. It's a blackout on the news. Yes. All right. Well, we're a little over 45 minutes, and you can only kind of see us some of the time anyway. We certainly appreciate you being here tonight. Don't forget, Mike's going to sum it up here after I'm done blathering. Don't forget that you can still go to last night's show. That was Sunday's show, and you can watch the outrageous videos. Just back to the journalistic equivalent of car crashes. You can watch those videos and vote about how you feel about them. And we cannot gather your information, anything about you. We certainly can't share it with anybody because we don't know it in the first place, but we can. And powers that be, I went to school with that guy, powers that be. And we'll let them know what you think about it. It is an opportunity for you to vote on things and to have a voice, and we're going to be more sophisticated with all that, and maybe polls if you wish to do so, and Czechs and Hungarians, all kinds of things a little bit later. But for right now, it's really, really simple. Mike, speaking of really simple, do you want to sum it up?
Oh, no, listen, I couldn't have done better than that. And listen, thanks for watching. And if you'd like to be privy to some of these meetings that we are now apparently excluded from in the future, maybe you ought to write a letter to your commissioner, or to hey, write a letter to Wally Hicks and ask him why when there's a quorum of commissioners there that the public isn't invited to.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. See you later.